Welcome back to Narrative Nook Cafe. I'm happy you are here. This is part 3, the final part of Angel in Disguise. So if you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2, please do so now. Let's get into the story. Mark sensed the shift before he understood it. My energy felt thinner. I still showed up, still smiled, still listened. But I no longer orbited. And Mark has always depended on gravity. He sent a message designed to reestablish hierarchy, a gentle check-in, a soft, emotional pull. I responded, polite, warm, brief, and I felt it, the flicker of panic on the other side of the screen. He told himself he was imagining things, that I was busy, that this was growth. But something itched beneath his calm. For the first time, Mark started monitoring me. Response times, tone, silence. It irritated him. He didn't like needing reassurance. That's not who he is. Mark tried a familiar move first. Future faking. That vague hope men use like a placeholder. I nodded and pretended to agree, but didn't anchor myself to it. And I felt the exact second the leverage disappeared. What Mark didn't know was that I'd already dropped his wording into the group chat. Word for word. The replies came fast. Girl, I heard that line too. Where's he getting money for breadcrumbs? Because when we went out, he never paid. Oh, he lost his debit card with you too? At least y'all went on dates. He just takes me to church, then wants to air my toes out after service like he didn't just hear the word. That's when the chat sharpened and comparison turned into coordination. I started watching Mark like a case study. I was around, but disengaged, and for the first time in years, Mark felt invisible. That's when the unraveling began. He blamed everything but himself. Stress, work, spiritual warfare. Maybe I'd met someone else. Anything that didn't require a mirror. Mark doesn't do mirrors. Mark still believed he was the good guy. He built his reputation on one belief. Good men don't get exposed. They get misunderstood. What Mark never saw coming was the most dangerous thing I've ever done. And Mark, bless his inflated sense of self, built the stage and set the scene himself. Mark was invited to be on a panel for a nonprofit organization in the community. The theme was Stronger Together, Building Kingdom Relationships. Mark was on the program. Of course he was. He sat on stage polished and relaxed, microphone balanced just right, talking about leadership, integrity, emotional intelligence, intentionality. He said words like accountability without ever attaching them to himself. Abstract virtue, no personal cost. I sat in the audience. Mark clocked me immediately. Relief washed over him. I showed up, so he thought that my presence meant something. That still meant something, right? Still orbiting, still tethered, still impressed. What he didn't see was my phone glowing softly in my lap. The group chat was live, time-stamped, screenshots ready, notes aligned. This wasn't chaos. This was choreography. The exposure didn't begin with accusations. That would have given Mark something to push against, something to spiritualize, something to gaslight. Instead, it started with questions. Soft ones. Curated ones. Questions that sounded curious, but cut straight through performance. A woman raised her hand. Calm voice. Steady posture. She asked Mark to clarify what he meant by emotional availability and transparency in relationships. He smiled. This was his lane. He answered smoothly, warmly. The room nodded. Then another hand. Different woman. Same calm tone. She referenced his exact wording from earlier, word for word. Cadence, perfect. Mark felt it. That first flicker, that half-second pause. But he kept smiling. Another woman stood, asked about commitment timelines, about patience, about why good men often ask women to wait indefinitely while offering zero clarity. Mark laughed, used humor like a shield. Anything good is worth waiting for, he joked. I mean, look at me. God clearly took his time when he made me. The room laughed. For now, I still hadn't moved, hadn't smiled, hadn't reacted, and that unsettled him more than anything. Then the shift happened, not loudly, not dramatically, but unmistakably. A woman stood. She didn't ask a question. She made a statement. Or maybe what we're seeing isn't what we think, she said calmly. Just unfortunate timing and context. She repeated his reassurance, verbatim. Same tone, same softness. The room went still. Mark froze. Half a second too long. Another woman stood. She looked almost amused. I hate that you're feeling unsettled, she said gently. The last thing I'd ever want is for you to feel insecure with me. Same phrasing, same emphasis. Different woman, different memory. His smile tightened. His brain scrambled. This wasn't coincidence. This was pattern. And patterns are lethal. I explained who Mark was, what he did, how he operated, how he sought women he thought were weak and malleable, how he mirrored healing just enough to feel essential, how he fed on admiration because he had none for himself. I said overlapping timelines, same phrases, same reassurances, same lies. I never raised my voice. I let the facts breathe. The room changed temperature. This wasn't gossip. This was documentation. Screenshots appeared on a projector screen on stage behind the panel, side by side. Same words, different dates, different women. Mark opened his mouth, stopped, laughed nervously, cleared his throat. None of it worked. He pivoted, spiritualized. God brought each of you into my life for a reason. The audience didn't nod anymore. They were watching. And Mark was unraveling. At first, it was subtle. His voice lifted just enough to notice. Defensiveness leaking through the calm he'd perfected. They're just mad because I didn't do what they wanted, he said. Then condescension crept in. Maybe if they put this energy into relationships, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. He contradicted himself, talked too much, forgot to sound measured. Someone asked, quietly, why every woman was told she was different. why patience was always demanded, why accountability always sounded like therapy homework for women instead of responsibility for him. That's when he snapped, not explosively, but sharply. "Women can't be trusted to think," he said. "You can tell them anything, and they'll believe it." The mask fractured, audibly. The room went silent, not shocked. Settled, like something finally clicked into place, because good men don't blame women for comparing notes. Insecure men do. Mark left early. No applause, no reassurance, no one chasing him. Outside, he sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel like it might talk back to him. And silence, without admiration, is unbearable. Inside, I hugged women who had been strangers just weeks ago. There was no celebration, just relief, closure, truth shared. Mark will rewrite this story later. He'll call himself attacked, misunderstood, targeted, but the audience knows, and the women know, because the truth didn't scream. It stood up, together. There's a moment after exposure nobody talks about. Not the confrontation, not the screenshots, not the gasp in the room. It's the after, the quiet, the "oh, it's really over" part. Mark sat in his car long after everyone else pulled off, jaw tight, chest lying to him about being calm. He thought there'd be applause, or at least confusion. Someone chasing him down saying, "Wait, let me hear your side." Nothing. Just silence. And silence hits different when you're used to being centered. He replayed the night in clips, not the facts, never the facts. The vibes, the way the room shifted, the way the smiles froze, the way his calm stopped being impressive and started being suspicious. He told himself he was ambushed, that women ganged up on him, that this is what happens when you try to be a good man in a broken world. Because Mark has always believed intention matters more than impact. And that night, impact said, "Yeah, no." He opened his phone, scrolled, refreshed. Nothing. No, "Are you okay?" No woman asking for clarity. And that's when it hit him. Not guilt, not shame, irrelevance. The kind that makes your stomach drop. At home, he paced. Practiced speeches nobody asked for. Drafted messages. Deleted them. Drafted again. Because Mark needs an audience the way some people need oxygen. But there wasn't one anymore. When charm stops landing, when calm stops convincing, when nobody reflects admiration back at you, all that's left is who you really are. And that's a jump scare for men like him. In the days that followed, he spun the story. To friends, he was misunderstood. To colleagues, it got messy. To himself, he meant well. But the story didn't hold because the community saw it. And Baton Rouge doesn't whisper. It connects dots. Church parking lots started buzzing. Group chats went quiet, then clear. Not gossip, recognition. Women stopped asking, "Am I crazy?" and started saying, "Wait, that happened to you too?" He stopped getting invited places, stopped being mentioned, stopped being referenced. Not because anyone yelled, but because he was seen. And once people see you, they adjust. For me, it felt different. Not like a win, like I could finally put my shoulders down. I didn't celebrate. I rested. Because I was no longer responsible for another grown man's emotional temperature. No longer shrinking to make him comfortable. No longer pretending his explanations made sense. My mind got quiet again. My body relaxed. I slept through the night. That anxiety I thought was love, gone. I didn't need an apology. I know better now. Closure isn't something men like Mark give. It's something women stop waiting for. An apology would have just been another conversation, another performance, another attempt to get back in the door. I was finally done dancing with the devil and expecting God to be my hype man, because I already had something Mark could never offer me, myself. I think about the version of me that stayed, the one who confused calm with character, who apologized for instincts that were trying to save her. And I forgive her, gently. She did the best she could with the information she had. Here's the truth I hold now. Mark didn't take my power. He borrowed it. And when I stopped handing it over, he folded. My laugh came back, loud, real, unfiltered. My intuition sharpened. My boundaries settled in without explanation. I trusted myself again. And that trust, that's sacred. The women stayed connected, not trauma bonded, discernment bonded. We don't talk every day. We don't need to. We know what we survived. We know what we dismantled together without raising our voices. I didn't get bitter. I got clear. Clear about what love sounds like. Clear about what respect looks like. Clear about what I will never mistake again. And if Mark ever crosses my mind now, it's not anger, it's understanding. Because men like him don't change when they're exposed. If they change, it will because they hit rock bottom and dug a hole. They never change as long as there's someone around. The mere presence of someone being there makes them feel like they are never truly the problem. I wrote this in my journal later. The devil never shows up looking like trouble. He shows up charming. But the truth doesn't chase. It doesn't argue. It waits. Until you can finally hear yourself again. I didn't lose love. I lost confusion. And that's how I won. This was never just about heartbreak. It was about perception. About women trusting themselves again. About silence becoming strategy. Because when truth is shared, it becomes freedom. If you liked this story, please click like, share, and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you are notified every time I upload. See you next time.